So, the break's nearly over, everyone shared their aspirational yacht photo dumps, and it's time to head to the dunes of Zandvoort for now at least, the second to last time, and with another wet weekend forecast, could be a spicy one. Kia ora, I'm Kimmy, I talk about Formula 1 in the world's second worst accent, and these are my 3 burning questions for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. Silly season this year's been a bit of a slow burn, with most teams choosing to leave their current drivers hanging rather than get things out of the way early, and the worst kept secret of Bottas and Perez's inevitable team up at Cadillac still has not actually been officially announced, despite every news outlet apart from the official F1 site itself basically treating it as such. So my question is, will some team principals put a few people out of their misery this weekend, or are we destined for yet another week of speculating about what exactly Toto Wolff is trying to achieve with his extended psychological torture of George Russell? At the moment, it feels like all the higher-ups at the teams with open seats for next year, with the exception of maybe Racing Bulls, who are probably waiting to see if Arvid Lindblad improves his F2 performances, are kind of just sitting on their hands, waiting to see how everything shakes out with Cadillac. Well, maybe not all of them, but for sure Alpine, whose race-by-race deal with Franco Colapinto seems like an even worse form of torture than what's going on at Mercedes. If for some reason Valtteri Bottas's presumed agreement with GM falls through, will he jump at the chance to sign with Enstone for what would probably be another performance clause riddled 1-year contract like the one he was constantly on when he was on the other side of the garage from Lewis Hamilton? Is he so desperate to get back on the grid that he'd put his fate in the hands of Flavio Briatore? Or heck, maybe Pierre Gasly's got an out for next year and is about to drop a bombshell on us. Who knows? Over at the Red Bull mini cluster, there's only one theoretically confirmed driver for next year, and Hadjar, Lawson and Tsunoda are all stuck in limbo fighting for their lives for the remainder of the season. We all know how Red Bull likes to leave things until after the season's already done and dusted, so I doubt we'll know where Yuki, Isaac and Liam are going to land, if anywhere, until sometime in December. When I say if anywhere, I don't so much mean Isaac. I think he's pretty safe. And again, not to harp on about Valtteri, but he's also a legit wild card for a seat beside Max Verstappen, particularly considering how much time he's been spending in that Mercedes 2026 sim. It would be pretty naive to assume that Red Bull haven't also made an approach, not only because of Bottas's experience, but also because of the potential insights he might have, Toto's ability to put up roadblocks notwithstanding. There's a big difference between coming to an agreement and actually signing a contract, and the former is a useful negotiating tool. While I think that yes, we will have Bottas Perez confirmation soon, and I think it makes total sense, I can't help but wonder if part of what's taking so long to announce has to do with the dotted line not actually being signed yet. And if I were Laurent Mekies, I'd be finding out what those numbers are, and I'd be chasing after Valtteri hard. Maybe by the time I've filmed, edited and posted this video, we might already have some movement on the Cadillac front, but for now they seem to be the cork in the bottle for a lot of teams' decisions. And as much as I think a Bottas Perez lineup makes a whole lot of sense, I would just love for there to be a shock signing in one of those slots just to make things interesting. My second question is, will the break have given some perspective for those who've been struggling? Hamilton, Sainz, Colapinto, Tsunoda and Antonelli have all stood out as the 5 drivers this year who've been out of sync with the other side of the garage, and it's not always been big swings. With Hamilton and Sainz in particular, they've not been all that far off their teammates on average. It's just that between the field spread being so small, meaning a tenth of a second can have dire consequences, or a bit of bad luck on a weekend where the car's in a good window, well, that's ended up with some serious points being dropped, and the end result making them look a whole lot worse than what they actually are. Colapinto's got this horrific race-by-race deal going on, which in my opinion is absolutely vile and unsurprising from the likes of Flavio. Tsunoda's driving possibly the most difficult car on the grid and is in the unfortunate position of having Max Verstappen as his teammate, which historically hasn't really gone well for many people. And Antonelli has had real flashes of excellence, but he's up against an absolutely outstanding George Russell who is getting pretty much everything possible out of that Mercedes. All 5 of these drivers have proven that they can get the job done in the past. Tsunoda has improved year on year, learned a lot from his teammates and become an incredibly reliable midfield driver who's been scuppered by a poisoned chalice. Antonelli's had his podium, a sprint pole and some great results for a rookie early in the season, but then struggled to get on top of a tricky car. Colapinto showed he too could come out of the gate swinging last year, but he was hampered by, that's right, yet another difficult to drive car, then being dumped into an Alpine that he wasn't very familiar with and hadn't, unlike Jack Doohan, spent a whole lot of time developing in the sim, and like Antonelli, he's up against a teammate who's been consistently putting that Alpine in places it shouldn't really be. Hamilton appears to be realising now that just because Ferrari signed a 7-time world champion, it doesn't mean they're suddenly going to change the way they work, to the point where he's apparently felt the need to highlight all the ways that they're failing internally, and Sainz failed to make the most of the car when it was good, whether by his own errors or his horrible bad luck, and now that he's got on top of things, Williams has been jumped by the rest of the field, and that potential for regular 5th place finishes has dried up along with their car development. The consistent thing across all 5 of these drivers is that they have a teammate whose experience with both the team and the car has shone through at points in the season. It's the end of a regulation cycle where the engineers and the aerodynamicists are looking to find any tiny advantage that they can, and without having years of experience and knowing what things have felt like in previous iterations and what the car could do, it can't be easy to fully understand all the finer points of what you've got going on underneath you. But putting aside all of that, with rain forecast, I can't help but think back to 2023 when there was a record number of overtakes at Zandvoort and we were treated to a really exciting race where, sure, Max Verstappen continued his season-long domination, but we have Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly up there on the podium with him. If the rain does come down on Sunday, I really hope these 5 can pull something out of the bag, and maybe one of them might get up there on the rostrum this time around. Now, before I get into the final question, this is your friendly reminder to click the like button and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my videos and would like to see more of them. Thanks in advance for your support. If you're a Patreon kind of person, the link is down in the description as well as right here on screen. As always, a huge thanks to those of you who've contributed to my winter heating bill. All right, last question. Look, I would be remiss to say I'm not invested in this McLaren intra-team battle. I am absolutely on the edge of my seat fascinated to see how it all plays out. And at the moment, I think it might go down to the wire, but at the same time, I kind of can't help but wonder if the momentum that Lando had prior to the summer break will continue on the other side of it. The cars come to him, McLaren's bought updates that have suited Lando more than they've suited Oscar, and now that McLaren's pulled so far ahead in the constructors and can only really lose the driver's title at this point thanks to some sort of absolutely catastrophic serious implosion, my question is, will they start throwing their weight behind one of the two, or will they continue to let each side of the garage battle it out for wins? And look, I'm going to be a little bit cynical here, but as you know, this is a very expensive sport. Sport is entertainment. Entertainment is all about money, and Formula One is kind of like the premium version of that. And all this is to say that I do think that Formula One has an incentive here to sit down with Zach Brown and Andrea Stella and request that they allow them to be close on track, because as seasons past have shown, when there's a dominant car with a favoured driver or a dominant driver, the negative sentiment that that level of domination tends to foster isn't great for F1 on the whole, and continuing to have a fight at the top will mean more eyes on screens, more enthusiasm, more people tuning in to Drive to Survive next year to see how the whole storyline's been totally manipulated, more revenue from every sales channel, and thus more prize money in that pie that gets divided up at the end of the season. McLaren has a real incentive here to continue to fight it out on track rather than in the strategy meetings. Keeping the fight alive through team orders isn't going to leave a good taste in anyone's mouth, and neither is showing favour to one driver or the other regardless of historic precedent. Let them be at odds. Let their engineers keep data to themselves. Let them make risky strategy choices that might end in tears. Let them be messy. Let them be close on track and bang wheels every now and then. Because as much as I enjoy the strategic elements and the rest of what's going on at the back of the field, I completely understand that from a broader entertainment standpoint, this is the shit that we like to see. As much as I personally haven't found this season boring and have thoroughly enjoyed the midfield switcheroo that's been going on, F1 fans on the whole like to see a fight at the top, and there's a whole lot of new fans out there whose attention you want to keep a hold of. Your guys would have to take each other out every third weekend to really create any serious threat to the driver's title beyond a miracle development from Mercedes or Red Bull or possibly Ferrari anyway, so why not put on a bit of a show? So that's my 3 burning questions for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. What are yours? Are you curious to see if Liam Lawson's steady comeback is going to stick? Maybe you're wondering if Sauber can pull off another strategic masterclass and get another podium. Or maybe you're thinking about Aston Martin's turnaround and are asking yourself if Fernando Alonso can pull something out of the bag this weekend. Come on. Chat about it down in the comments. Thanks for watching till the end, and I'll catch you next time.